What is up, LobotomizeGang is the guy. You know, the guy who forgot to plug in his headphone, then spent 20 minutes trying to find out why there wasn't any audio. Over the weekend, between bouts of extreme anxiety, I've managed to spend an unhealthy amount of time on one of the biggest ARPGs in recent years, Path of Exile 2. And to be honest, you might not like this game, but not for the reasons you would expect. See, the thing is, Path of Exile 2 is phenomenal! God damn, the game is great! It is mind-blowing just how good this game is, you know? I don't even have the word to describe just how good it is. It's that good, okay? It is unlike any ARPGs of its kind, even though I've spent only about 17 hours with it up to this point, which is not a lot considering this is an ARPG. In terms of gameplay, Path of Exile 2 is hands down, without a shadow of a doubt, my absolute favorite ARPG of all time. Okay, that is how good this is. I am saying it, the first act of this game is nothing short of a masterpiece. Okay? Not so much the other two acts, but you know, the first act, alright? And this is coming from somebody who has played a lot of ARPGs, okay? And I'm not just talking about the popular ARPGs that everybody plays. I've played so many of them, even the obscure one that nobody talks about, alright? But there is one caveat. Path of Exile 2 is hard. It is extremely hard, especially for an ARPG. It is harder than me watching that scene in True Detective with Alexandra Daddario. The best way I can put it, it's like Elden Ring had sex with Grim Dawn, but not the kind of passionate and loving intercourse that you often daydream about, you pervert. I am talking rough, abusive, hard sex, where Grim Dawn gets railed from behind, while Elden Ring looks at its reflection flexing in the mirror. Forget about running around and killing the entire screen with one press of a button, okay? Unlike PoE 1, you actually have to play the game now. In my hyped video, which you can watch right here, I did say that the WASD movement system would be a game changer. And I was right, it is a game changer. You can tell that this game was designed with the WASD movement in mind. Enemies and bosses have really intricate attack patterns, and most of the time, almost every single enemy deals extremely high amounts of damage, borderline on insanity. Sometimes bosses one-shot you, just like in Elden Ring. I'm not exaggerating when I say this might be the hardest ARPG ever made. You have to be locked in order to beat some of these bosses, okay? Your friends and family has to go look for you in solitary confinement with how locked in you gotta be. Normal enemies are easy enough to kill. The problem only arises when they gang up on you, especially in later levels when the game just throws trolls and trolls of enemies at you. That is when the game gets really difficult. The bosses, however, are a different story entirely. They are the meat and bones of this game. Similar to Elden Ring, this is the reason why you should play PoE 2, right? The bosses. Not only are they hard with intricate movesets, they are also epic. I gotta tell you, the final boss of the first act got my goosebumps going all over my body, man. My heart was pounding. It is so cool and epic. So, now you're asking, what about everything else? Well, this is where the abilities come in. How do I say this in the best way possible? It's like a homage to Diablo 2. Some of these abilities here are awfully similar to Diablo 2, especially those of the sorceress. And the class that I picked, the monk, plays just like the assassin minus the traps. But it is not so much copying as it is heavily inspired. Regardless, I am glad it is taking inspiration from the best. Well, it was the best until PoE 2 came out. Plus, the other 6 classes, like the druid or the hunter, are coming out later. Maybe then we can call it plagiarism, huh? I picked the monk class, aka the worst class in the game, simply because unlike, say, the witch or the sorcerer, the monk doesn't have easy access to high damage abilities. He has to do a whole song and dance routine, rolling around on the ground, struggling, before he can manage to output some real damage. It's kind of pathetic. pathetic compared to the witch, who just stands there and let the minions do her bidding. Just look at him! This guy's a twink! Why the hell did I pick him? And since the game relies on dealing as much damage as quickly as possible, especially later on into the game and the end game, it is easier to see where the monk falls flat. Every single one of your big damage abilities needs some sort of build-up, some sort of combo before unleashing their true potential, which is easier said than done, especially when it comes to the bosses. See, let me explain. Throughout the entirety of the first act, your biggest damage dealing ability is Falling Sky, which requires charges to be effective. In order to accumulate charges, you have to execute enemies with the 5-finger exploding heart techniques from Kill Bill. This isn't a problem in normal gameplay because there are enemies aplenty and you can just do it to every single one of them. But as you can guess, in boss fights where the only enemy you fight is the boss, it devolves into real quickly. I should have picked the sorceress. However, being a 5'6" Asian male means that I am used to an existence of humiliation and degradation. So, I managed to drag myself all the way through the end of Act 2, smiling the whole way through it. The game kinda slips back into its PoE panties and becomes ridiculous towards the end of Act 2 though. That is when enemies start to pile up and the gameplay becomes a mess. It remains to be seen whether it will get better as I unlock more abilities, which there are a lot of. Managing your abilities, however, is another story entirely. See, PoE 2 is innovative in the sense that it pushes boundaries with what you can do in an ARPG. One of those innovations being boss fights. They are everywhere in this game. There is at least one boss fight for every map. They even make you fight the boss if you want to plan your build. It's called the UI. The skill and ability UI is a freaking mess at the moment. Moving support gems around is a pain in the ass, and you can only see what ability a gem supports after you unlock that gem. Not only that, the only way to see what abilities you have available is by using an uncut gem, which opens this menu. Here, you can see your whole ability tree as well as those of other characters. Outside of the uncut gem, there is no other way to open this menu. What the fuck? I had to run around killing monsters for 20 minutes until they drop a gem in order to show you this menu here. Excuse me, but I thought they had 4 years to make this game. 4 years and the entire lifespan of PoE 1. And this is what they came up with? Huh? Did they let a bunch of chimpanzees playtest this game? While I believe this problem will have been fixed by the time the game comes out of early access, it is worth taking into consideration nonetheless. If you're still on the fence about PoE 2, then consider this video a bunch of bricks that's gonna build that fence into a 20-foot wall. But in my subjective opinion, Path of Exile 2 is the best ARPG in recent years. It is phenomenal, and with some adjustments, I believe it's going to be the best ARPG ever made. But as of this moment, it still has a long and treacherous way to go. A full review video is coming in the future. In the meanwhile, you can go watch my other videos here. Subscribe and stay tuned to witness my gradual descent into insanity. If you don't, I'll give a backpack to some random lady at the airport and yell "BOMB!"